Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Two Nigerian Women. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Bukun.
Hello, everyone. My name is Abidemi, and thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Yeah, today is a bit subdued because Bidemi has a topic that triggers me. And so please, there's a trigger warning on this. We've called it man's inhumanity to man, to allow us to be able to post this video without it being flagged. But we're going to talk about the worrying trend of domestic abuse on child labor in Nigeria today. Very delicate topic, and we promise we're going to treat this as delicately as we can. So please bear with us. We will have links in the description box, whether you're in the UK or Nigeria, on organizations that offer help if you're affected by what we're talking about today. So, Sisi, could you introduce this topic, please?
Yes, today's topic is quite heavy on my heart, and I felt really emotional about it
Mm,
since it happened last week. So it happened roughly 4 days ago.
hmm
A lady had a help somewhere in Nigeria. I don't know where she is in Nigeria, but she had so abused this young girl. I think the girl, I'm not sure how old she is, but she looks like she'll be 11 or 12. But you know how malnourishment is, that some children that are way older, they look younger because they're not eating well. Anyway, this lady had abused this young girl. She used iron, I think it's a pressing iron,
For
to,
clothes.
yes, for clothes, thank you, to iron the girl's two butt cheeks. Her face has the iron stamp as well. So she used hot iron on the girl's face. And her one of her legs, I think her left leg, the whole thing is bent out of shape. So something must have happened. We don't know the real context of what happened, but this lady supposedly, according to what we heard, is a lawyer. And when her neighbors happened to expose this thing, because we're speaking a language that I don't speak, unfortunately, so I didn't hear about things they were saying. She ran away from her house and she's been looked for. But we also, many times, we find these kind of issues going on in homes across Africa, but we'll specifically speak on Nigeria because that's where we're from and that's what we're familiar with. But you have people that employ underaged helps to help take care of their kids, their home. And in the end, it's the intentions maybe starting out were to provide support for a family member in the village who often offers their young son or daughter to a relative in the big city to help train, and in turn while the person is training, so educating that young lady, the
hmm
young lady or young man helps in the domestic work in the house, so domestic duties, helps carry it out. This is something that's gone on for as long as I can remember, but you have children as young as 8 being, as far as I'm concerned, pawned off to a relative somewhere, not knowing when they're going to come back. And you have
hmm
cases that some of them run away, they run away from home, they are
hmm
abused by the relative they are staying with, the husband, which some of them, some of the wives know. Sometimes it's relatives, sometimes the fellow domestic help, sometimes it's security man that's supposed to guard in the house that realize this is a vulnerable young boy or girl and they're being abused sexually. It happens. Some run to the motor parks, so where the cars, um, what they call the bus parks, thank you, where cars are being loaded to different places, and they sometimes hang around there, and people ask them questions, and you have people, due to the empathy in their hearts and wanting to be, they're sympathetic to this young child, pay their way to their place, try to find out where are you from, what's your village. Some of them are really young that they don't even know where they're from. They don't even know their surnames besides their first name. And then you have people that contribute money, get money, or even find a way to get them back home. But you sometimes you have those children, it's like a revolving door. They find their way back into the city doing the same work for somebody else. And you have people that have these helps that constantly it's a revolving door as one help leaves, because a lot of times people December they go back to their villages, they go back to their hometowns where they're from, celebrate Christmas, and these helps don't come back with them. Either
Mm-hmm.
by pure like deception, maybe they are tired of the help, or the help is tired of being abused and doesn't want to go back with this auntie that promised heaven and earth. So they refuse to go back, and then they come back with another help. And it's a vicious circle. So every year you have some people that are changing helps every year. I had a neighbor when I was growing up, I was in secondary school, that always had the husband's relatives coming to stay and help. And she was very, very, as far as I'm concerned, very mean to these individuals. And she had her own children. She would hit, she would insult or abuse in term verbally. She would hit, she would hurt, and then she takes this girl to church. And when the girl is sleeping in church, she says the girl is a wizard or a witch because she's sleeping. That's a child that's probably gone to bed at 2 a.m. and is up at 6 to look after your kids that are almost the same age as she is. Then you also have the ones that have been in homes that are well aware that the man of the house is abusing this young girl. The wives
Mm-hmm.
know, but they keep quiet because they want to keep their peace in their home. And then when matters come to a head, let's say the girl gets pregnant, they tell people that the girl seduced their husband and want to disrupt or put, I don't want to use the word asunder, but almost like asunder between man and wife. So they send this girl back to where she's coming from, pregnant, no hope, no future. Some are deceived to come into the city that they'll get a good education. Maybe they go to school for a term and after that they're at home because they're falling behind in their homework, in their schoolwork. They're falling behind. They're not sleeping well. They are not meeting up to their mates, so they keep failing and repeating. Because in Nigeria, we have a system where if you don't get a certain cut off mark, you have to stay in the class while your mates move ahead. You repeat that class. So some will repeat the class for the next 3, 4, 5 years, and after a while, tell them to leave.
Mm-hmm.
Or some will put the children in a very substandard school that has absolutely nothing to offer, while their kids are going to private, expensive, and this child probably has to run their kids to school and go to her own school. She goes to school late, she gets beaten because there's corporal punishment in Nigeria. She gets beaten, starts school, she can't in class, she's sleeping, she can't write, she can't concentrate. She gets home, she has to make dinner, she has to fetch water. If they're living in a place that there's no running tap water, then she's entrusted with the care of fetching bucket loads of water up a flight of stairs. And she has to do that in the morning before she goes to school, and she has to do that when she gets back home from school. She has to cook, she has to look after the younger ones. She has to make sure they are well taken care of. I was listening to a Twitter space last week, and a lady said she was abused by her own auntie. Two, in fact, one was abused by her own auntie. So her mother's brother, very good brother. This lady got married to the man and said, "Please come and live with me in the I think I don't know if I don't I'm not sure where anyway." And she
Mm-hmm.
moved in with this lady, and from the day she moved in, it was hell. She said it's really bad that she has a cut above her eye from where auntie used something to cut her and the hair hasn't grown back since. And she couldn't tell her uncle because she didn't want to cause any problems. But she told her sibling what was going on, but she didn't tell her mom. And this is somebody that is in her 30s, says she's ready to speak her truth. But till today, her uncle doesn't know what happened. The uncle's wife has passed, but she refused to tell the
Mm-hmm.
uncle what the wife did. Even when they're eating, she eats in the kitchen. She wasn't allowed to sleep on the bed. She had to sleep on clothes on the bare floor. She said it was because she bed wet. That is why they told. This is her own uncle, not a distant. This is her mother's brother's wife. So she was living with them while they were having kids. And at a point, she said she wants to go. And then whenever her uncle is there, the auntie gaslighter of life will call her all sorts of pet names. It was almost like the girl was making stories up because one moment the auntie was cold, the next moment auntie was hot. But you never knew what you were getting. And she was with this woman from the age of 7 till 12.
Mm.
Not because the mother couldn't afford to look after her. She, I want to go to my favorite uncle's house, and that's what happened. But for some people, it happens that there's nobody to train them. But I think we need to unpack this in terms of people
We
having
do.
children
There's so
that look
much.
after that,
There's
because
so
that
much.
is happening.
Okay, so Sissy, especially for people who love to listen to two Nigerian women, thank you for listening. We did warn you this is a heavy topic. Please bear with us so that you can understand, if you will, why we're even talking about this, and also understand how this happens in 2024.
Mm.
So, in most third world cultures, as that's the way we would refer to them, but Nigeria is quite developed. Let's be frank and fair. In most third world cultures, there is a long-standing legacy of always having help, domestic help. It could take the form of nannies, housekeepers, cleaners, cooks, gate men, as we call them. So they're the ones who guard the gate. They make sure they're pretty much security men. In terms of their job description, there's a legacy. It's seen as a privilege and almost as a normal way of life to be able to have help round the house. Now, there are different levels of help. And the one we're talking about is where, in exchange for training a child, so the parent of this child cannot afford to send them to school, or even where they live doesn't even have a school in the first instance. So they would farm out the child to a well to do, or well enough to do family, because there are different classes as there are here in Nigeria, different classes economically. They'll farm out the child to them to serve with them in exchange for the child to be educated to as high a standard as the family can afford.
Mm.
So it's not it's not a practice born out of um, evil or wickedness. It was literally an exchange of service for either monetary gain or economic gain, in terms of elevate a child's life outcome by training them, so that the parents do not suffer the child with hardship. It quote unquote, what I'm trying to say is it's a normal thing to happen. So if you understand that context and then realize, okay, you in some instances, these children are not paid at all, but it's in exchange for something. In some instances, the family that farms out that child, so to speak, is not doing it for the child's good. They're doing it for their own financial gain. That still
Yeah.
happens. Child labor, I do not agree with it. It's a practice that has gone on for centuries. And unfortunately, more often than not, now please bear in mind, I say more often than not, because in some instances, some well intentioned people do train that child and give them very menial duties to do. Like your thing is just to make breakfast in the morning, and that is it. Then you
Mm.
go to school and you have a normal childhood. But child labor is seen as normal in quite a large part of the world. It's sad, but it's the reality for a lot of countries. Where the rubber meets the road is, why is there such a huge abuse problem? This child did not ask you to bring them into your house. You are the one who needs help, right? Which is why you've agreed. Well, most of the time, it might be, it might be, what's the word? The child was imposed on a family in some instances, like you said, in terms of this auntie that was horrible to her niece. She probably never wanted her to come live with them, but we don't know. We don't know the detail of these people, right?
Mm.
But the point is to see, First of all, it's hard to change a culture, especially one that's steeped in centuries of habit of getting a child in to come and work. It's really hard to stop that culture. And I'm not saying it shouldn't be stopped. And actually, the question to the Nigerian government, because we're talking about an incident in Nigeria, what are you doing to make sure this never happens again? I don't know if they will pass a law on banning child labor, but let's presume they can and they would. I would encourage them to start putting things through Parliament ASAP if they've not started already. But
Yeah.
in the meantime, there are thousands of children in homes around Nigeria right now. I pray most of them are being treated in the right way. I pray that they would come out of their servitude with much better than they went in with.
Mm.
That's my prayer for them. It's not an ideal scenario, but they are where they are. What happens in this instance? This woman obviously is greatly disturbed to use an iron on anybody. It doesn't have to be a child, on anybody. Her extent of wickedness is not born of a normal physical reaction. There is something wrong with her psychologically.
Mm.
There has to be, because no one in their right mind would would intentionally take an iron. You see, this is this
Plug
is
the iron,
the
not just take it, plug it in.
this is the quality of the wickedness. See, you know there are many ways to hurt people, but you decided to, like you said, you plugged the iron into a socket. You made sure it was hot enough to burn her, not just in one place, but several places. What is wrong with you? What depth of depravity drove you to that point? And that is what I think a root cause that we need in addition to why in the world is there child labor in the first place? But in addition to that, how how deep does the world has always been evil since the days of Sodom and Gomorrah. The world
Mm.
has always been evil, but the
Mm-hmm.
extent of the wickedness in this woman, that she consciously planned this out, even if it was within 1 minute she planned it, she still planned it. She planned to carry out this level of wickedness to prove her point to God knows who. People like that, in my opinion, no, and the Bible says it, so don't come for me. Death penalty, because I don't understand what we can do to reform a mind such as this. We can pray, we can cast out demons, we can do exorcism of different kinds. But this is where the Bible says, and I know it was under the old covenant, oh, I'm well aware, take them out of the camp and stone them to death. Genuinely, I do not understand why. Number one, she felt justified because she must have been arguing with the neighbors until she ran away. Ah,
I
Lord.
think it's something because the girl had scar marks
Oh,
all over.
oh.
So the stage at which the neighbors got involved
Found
does
out was later. Okay.
was when
So,
when something hot has burned someone and the what do you call it, the festering bits have
scab,
fallen
the
off.
scab.
Yeah, the scab has fallen off and it's still red. That is when people discover. And I'm sure the girl was still working and doing everything.
I was
So
going to say, so she was still bold as day, like
yes, she
nothing
still
was
was
going
until
on.
people discovered. But
No,
it's
Allah.
really sad because in Nigeria, the authorities that are supposed to fight for children or fight for people that has a disadvantage actually do not. Because while this case was going on, there was another case that was discovered that the lady what's that word? The lady I'm just trying to go through. Okay. The lady had I don't know what she did to the little girl, but the little girl, her eyes were oh sorry, I think she put glue in her eye or something. I can't remember.
Glue.
Yes, both eyes. So
Wow.
the already healed, and people took this up, and the family, so the abusive family, paid the young lady's family 500,000, and they said they are settled out of court. Do you heal abuse with money? That's an emotional scar that will never go away, never. Or it's the ignorance of it, and I think there's a lot of
Actually. I'm
Patience.
sorry. Did they
Mm,
collect the money?
of course.
They are part of the problem.
Yeah, they don't. Ah, they need money. They're hungry. Forget.
They need
Ah,
money for what?
wait now.
What do
No,
they
no.
need money for?
Explain.
500,000. What is that going to do?
No,
No,
just
no,
wait.
no. See, these
I'm
things,
not,
they annoy me.
justifying what they did. Oh, listen to me. I'm talking for them in their little puny mind. They will say, is it not this thing? Have you two healed? Don't you forgive that auntie? Tell her you forgive her now. It's okay. There's food. And that's how, and that's why I mean that this issue needs to be unpacked. People need to be educated. 'Cause a lot of people don't know their rights or know what is acceptable and not acceptable. And then people don't also know. Let us go back to not having children that you cannot take care of. There's some people that have kids and things have happened along the way and they're stuck. Yes, there's some people in that situation, but there's some that just having and having. They tell you, oh, God will take care. God is the provider. God will look after kids, and that is a problem in itself. And you have a lot of people that are doing that because why will you think it's okay for you to farm your children? And you have some of them have farmed their children are all over the world. There have been a few success stories. People that have taken their housemates abroad and train them up onto university. There've been a lot of them. But you have, I think the success stories, for me, according to what we've seen so far, I might be wrong. So forgive me if I am wrong. The success stories are not as much as the horrible stories. Because a lot, you ask any child that has gone through this kind of thing, they'll tell you how their madam was wicked. How their madam did this, their madam did that, or how their auntie did this is a relative, the distant relative. And this is something, there's a child now that's going through that. Not one, not two. And we're even talking about domestic help. What about the ones that are abusing their own children in this kind of form? I'm not talking about sexually, I'm talking about like physical maltreatment and all of that. You have the
Mm-hmm.
also the mothers, stepmoms that are doing that to their stepkids. On that same space, I was listening to some guy said that he came from a polygamous home. His mom was the first wife. I don't know if his mom has passed. I don't know what the story was, but his mother really, really maltreated him. That he refused to get married, even he didn't have a relationship with his dad. Sometimes the men are oblivious, and sometimes the men actually know, but because they want to keep peace in the home, they don't say anything. While I was growing up, we always had helps. It was standard because my dad wasn't there, so we always had male and female, but not underage. They were always matured. But also is an issue because a lot of people have stories of those helps abusing people's children. A lot of people have
Exactly.
that. Thankfully, that wasn't our own. That didn't happen to us because we always had. Sometimes we had two. We were called batmen because my dad was in the military. We had two
Mm-hmm.
batmen and then a house help. It was house girl, not so. I think it's the meaning. So
Mm-hmm.
housemaid, house help. So we always had three people with us. We were four children under 10. My mom was away most of the time, busy. So we had people looking after us when she wasn't there. So cooking, doing all that cleaning, making sure things. And my dad was on the scene, was around, obviously. But you have that as well. So and then every one of them, when I think about it, I actually didn't realize there was one that came as a Batman, and my dad put him in the military, and he became a soldier. And every
Yeah.
time he saw me, he told me, "Your daddy
Mm,
saved my life,
mm,
Uncle Ib." We used to call him
mm.
Uncle because we're not allowed to call them by names. They were Uncle or Aunt.
Yeah.
So Uncle IB, I will never forget. Anywhere he saw me, he always gave me money though. Anywhere he
Mm,
saw us, because we're all military establishment, you're always around each other. He was always grateful
mhm,
for what my dad did for him. There was one I wanted to go to university. He was writing his A levels from our house. My parents
mm,
paid his school fees, uniform. He was going to school to write his exams. He
mm.
went to university from our house. We had so many. We had the other one that was working for us. Towards the end of my dad's career. And my dad put her in the military as well. And she became um what they call it, the flight attendants in the military jets. She's one of them.
Okay.
And that
Okay.
is a very lucrative because you're close to the
Right.
president. You fly with the
Mm,
president. And that's a very
mm,
lucrative job. And I'll never forget her, Auntie A. But we had
mm,
people like that. But you will not leave our house empty handed. My daddy made sure if it was business you were going to start, you were equipped to go ahead. You were not just going to leave and tell you bye, see you next time. And I
mm.
think it's very important because you never know what you're doing for your kids going forward in future, what seeds you are sowing. But I think
Sewing.
the
Yeah.
whole child labor laws need to be revised in Nigeria. We have female senators, we have female House of Rep
Let's
members,
not talk about them,
yeah,
sister.
we have governors' wives that can be the voice. What are you
You
doing?
see, we know what those female senators did.
No,
Let's
let
not.
us give them the benefit of the doubt. What are you doing now
They're not
in this?
doing much.
You,
They are not doing
be,
much.
be a voice of reason. Speak for these children. Be their voice. Be their agency. A lot of them don't have agency. You be the agency for them. What
Of
is
course.
going on? These things can't keep going on, and we ask for equal representation. We ask for so many things. Now we have it. What are we using it for? Because when you're talking about abuse, it's only domestic abuse that's covered, unfortunately. There's
The
more.
child abuse is not.
Child abuse is not, because also when you talk about child abuse, you have to talk about child marriage, and they go hand in hand. So
Yeah. Uh, you see, that
exactly.
is where the trouble starts. Because who
So,
does child marriage? Let's not go there. We'll
so
leave that
yeah,
one for another day. We're not
I
ready
think
to face those ones yet.
no, no, it is connected because that's also abuse. So what
No,
it
no,
is.
no. Wait now. Wait. That's a very, very particular,
I know,
legalized,
I
religious
know, I've seen, but
form of
it is
abuse.
interconnected. So if we do that, then we have to do the other. It's not either or. It's hand in
Yeah, no, but Sissy, do you want to do
hand.
that now? You want to do that now?
Do what?
As in address the child marriage one now.
I mean, in terms of the law.
No, do you know what? Do you know what? It's different. Let me tell you why they will tell you it's different from a legal perspective. The child abuse we're speaking about now is one that is born out of servitude, where you quote unquote hire a child, right?
Mm,
The child marriage is legalized under a certain religion.
mm,
And that is a different line entirely. And we can address it. Obviously, it will be quite controversial. Some people would not like what we say, well, they're not on this platform. They're welcome to contact us, put in a comment and whatnot. But we will talk about it in a different thing. But Sissy, let's come back on topic once again. Apologies to anyone this is a trigger for. Please check the descriptions on whatever platform you're listening to. We have put in links in there for people that can support you through any thoughts you want to verbally express, and also practically help anyone you know going through any abusive situations here in the UK or in Nigeria. And if you're listening from any other country around the world, we're sure there will be agencies that can support you or anyone you want supported. If we can come back to the topic, there is no deterrence. You see, like you said, there's no agency for these children. Yeah, there
mm.
is no deterrent on two fronts. Number one, hiring a child, and number two, in event the child ends up with a mad person, what happens to that mad person? The fact that it went to court and they were allowed to settle out of court.
No, it didn't go to court. They never take it to court. It's
So it
for the
was the
police
police.
station.
It was
Yes,
police. So it
yes.
was the police that said, "Go and settle yourselves." You see,
A lot of
Walala.
the a lot of the times it
So
is. But
that
let
is
me.
stupid. They are abusing this child, and you're telling them it's not. It's not a problem with the law. You should go and look. There's a lot of work that needs to happen in Nigeria,
So
and
let me
we
read
are
it quickly. So it
go
said,
on, man.
the husband accepted. That's for the other girl that had her eyes stuck together. So it said, no, no. Okay, I'm coming. Okay, the husband agreed to train the victim to university, and by next Saturday they'll be meeting to sign an undertaking and have the evidence of fixed deposit. Then the national legal advisor, a barrister, advised that whatever agreement must be done in the law court. But after much deliberation during our yesterday's meeting, we settled with the above disposition while keeping the latter as an alternative means of action. There is no, they
So
didn't go
it
to
went to court. It went to
no,
court. If a barrister is involved.
but advised that whatever agreement must be done in the law court. But after much deliberation, we settled with the above decision while keeping the latter as an alternative.
Okay, let's just
And they
say,
handed over the child to the mother. But there's also another initiative. It's called the Safe and Secure the Child Initiative, the campaign against child abuse in Nigeria. I think we need to give these people a lot of support because at least they stepped up to the plate and you can visibly see them in a picture, photo up with the victim, the victim's family, and the legal representation, which didn't go
God
anywhere.
bless them for the work they do,
But
but
it
their
is
work
tough.
would their work would always be hindered because it is acceptable for
Mm,
such a thing to occur, unfortunately. They will
mm,
say it is our tradition, it is our culture. You can change it. You can change it. There is nothing that says you should not evolve
mm.
into a better way of thinking and a better way of doing.
Doing things. Yep.
As far as this woman, the one that hurt that child, when they do catch her, I hope the full extent of the law is administered. And I know the law is a bit quirky in Nigeria in terms of things can be manipulated to the point
Mm,
of nothing happens to the perpetrator. But see, beyond the law, there is God. And there is one day for the owner. And the owner of that child is God, in terms of He's the one who sent that child to earth. And you've mistreated that child to the point of this child is now traumatized for life with
mm,
physical scars to show the trauma. God will deal with you. That is it. I have
mm.
nothing else to say. These things, as you know, really irk me. To see, what I want to encourage anyone listening is in any way you can support a cause that is against child labor in Nigeria and around the world, because we see it also in eastern parts of Europe as well. And it actually even occurs here in the UK. They
Yes.
just hide
Yes.
it very well.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so please, in any way you can support, please support. Any links you see in there, especially ones for support for yourself if you're triggered by this, we please encourage you to go through to those links, talk to a counselor, and try and Lord, just try and be well. Yeah, try and be well. Sissy, do you want to close us out?
Yeah, and also I think we need to be the eyes and ears of a lot of children. We can be the ones that speak for them. And I think, like we have on the real line, see something, say something. If you see something, say something. Fight for these kids. We all citizens arrest is a thing, and citizens watch is also a thing, and we all have a responsibility to be our brother's keeper. And I think it's very important when it comes to little children. Even in the Bible, it says, "Suffer not the little children to come to me." It is very
Mm.
important. They will see the kingdom of God because God is through their eyes. They are innocent. So I think it's very important that we as adults, as individuals around us, we are mindful of the people around us. If you notice something out of the ordinary, please say something. It's better to say something and be proved wrong than not say anything and allow abuse to go on without it being checked. On that note, we say thank you for joining us. I'm very sorry we're a bit subdued today, and I apologize. Also, Ibukun is not really feeling it, and I was going to take the lead for today's discussion. Thank you so much for being here with us. We really appreciate it, and hopefully we'll catch you on the next episode. Please send us your questions, your remarks, your comments, and also if you have an experience you'd like to share, even if you want to come on board and let's have a conversation, we will not mind having you in the studio with us, because it's very important that we give a lot of people a voice to be able to speak their truths, no matter how long it takes. On that note, we say have a wonderful week, a wonderful day. Keep being your amazing selves, and the sky is not the limit. Bye.
God bless you, Sissy. Bye, everyone. Bye.